call to order the regular meeting of the Ojai Planning Commission for Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. Sherry, would you call the roll, please?
Chair Quillisi?
Here.
Vice Chair Nolan?
Here.
Commissioner Lottis?
Here.
Commissioner Bennett?
Here.
And Commissioner Trent yet to come in.
Yet to come in. Okay. If you will all then join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Next up is the time for public communications. Lucas, Sherry, do we have any people in the waiting room or people who have sent us email or other communications about tonight's meeting?
We have 2 people in the waiting room and no hands raised.
No hands raised. Okay. Then we'll move on to, sorry, yes, Lucas.
Chair Quillisi, if I could, I'd like to just make an announcement before we move on to allow,
Sure.
There are people in the audience that want to speak on what I'm about to say. So this is in regards to item 1, which was scheduled to be heard tonight. I just want to let you know that I was recently made aware in writing that the appellant and owner for the lot line adjustment and minor variance appeal that was scheduled for tonight as item 1, as I just mentioned on this agenda, have agreed to a compromise which will no longer require a minor variance and lot line adjustment. So that can move forward again as approved at the director level. I'm working out really kind of those details at this point with the owner and appellant, and we'll be sending out a revised letter to both parties given the site plan revision that they've come forward. Now, as I had said before, it no longer requires a minor variance. It's been taken off of the agenda for tonight because of that. However, if there are people in the audience that would like that were intending to speak on item 1 and want to speak, this would be that time to do that.
Both people in the audience are for the other project.
Okay.
Okay. So with that, the appeal has been withdrawn. Is that correct?
Yes, it's no longer necessary, and basically it's kind of in tandem because the proposal that's been agreed upon between both parties no longer requires a minor variance, and that was the reason for the appeal. So yes, it's effectively been withdrawn, or it's just void at this point because of the situation that the 2 parties have come to in terms of an agreement.
May I ask a question? Throughout the docket on this item, it refers to the property owner, and it also refers to the appellant. And the appellant we know, but the property owner changed, as I could see from this, in the middle of all of these things going on. And is the new property, I assume the new property owner is the property owner of both parcels. Is that true?
Correct.
So we're still in the same situation where there are not.
Yes, but I would say it's a new property owner that has come to the table with the appellant.
Okay.
That's the difference in this equation now.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Good evening, John. Okay, disclosure of site visits and ex parte contacts. We do have one site of interest tonight, 1001 North Montgomery. I have visited the site, had no ex parte contacts. Vice Chair Nolan?
I too am familiar with the site and have had no ex parte contacts.
Very good. Commissioner Lottis?
Yes, I visited the site today and I've had no ex parte contacts.
And Commissioner Trent?
Familiar with the site, but no ex parte contacts.
Thank you. And Commissioner Bennett?
No ex parte communication, and I am not familiar with the site, except as described in the docket.
Okay, Yeah, it's not easy to see. You have to walk in off the paved road to see either of the structures on the property. All right, so our public hearing item number one, as you say, the appeal is now moot. Is there, Sherry, anyone who wishes to speak? Raised a hand on item number one? I'm sorry, you said no?
Correct. It was a no.
Okay, it was a no. Okay. Well, let's move on then to item number two, a design review permit at 1001 North Montgomery. Maura, you're going to introduce this to us?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you. And this is a development or design review permit 21-017 for 1001 North Montgomery Street. And it's a proposal to replace existing doors and windows on the second story, as well as construct a deck on the second story of a single family residence. When you received this package or this item in your packet, there's a bold note on there that initially there was a variance that was included in this project because there was a deck proposed at the rear that was going to be encroaching into the rear yard setback. And the owner and the neighbor who was concerned about that worked it out, and the rear deck has been removed and replaced with a slab. And I'll get into that a little bit when I'm doing my presentation. I just wanted to get that out of the way. There's no longer a variance. It's a design review permit that you're looking at tonight. So you're looking at this because a design review permit is required for renovations or additions to second stories of two-story single-family structures. And that's pursuant to Municipal Code Section 10-2.2003. This project is a proposal, as I said, to replace existing doors and windows and construct a deck on the second story of an existing two-story single-family residence. Although there are other renovations going on to the house, if they're on the first story, they are not under the discretionary review of the Planning Commission. You're only looking at second story as far as discretionary review and consideration. As I said already, but I just want to make it really clear to you and anybody else who's listening out there that the project was initially legally noticed and forwarded to you with a request for a variance, as well as the design review permit. The applicant was proposing a deck at the rear of the residence that encroached into the required rear yard setback. The existing single family house was originally constructed right at the rear yard setback line. And so anything that they do in the rear yard is going to encroach into the required setback. There was a concern by a neighbor, and the applicant eliminated the deck due to that concern and has replaced it with a concrete slab, which the person who was concerned was not concerned about that. They also, it's being replaced to the, as you're looking at your plan in the west elevation, it's to the right. And my directions, I think that would be the south side. And that's where the slab is. However, a slab isn't under your discretionary purview because it's considered groundwork. It's not considered an encroachment into the rear yard setback area as long as it does not exceed 18 inches above grade at any point. Well, in your packet, you have a plan where there's a slab that at some points does exceed 18 inches. And I noted that after I sent out the packet. I contacted the designer and the applicant was already intending on doing landscaping and some grading in the backyard. That is not something for the Planning Commission to review and consider. But in doing so, they are going to raise the ground level a few inches. And so at no point will this slab exceed 18 inches. And if you are going to be recommending approval this evening, the suggestion is that there be a condition in your motion that states that the slab at the rear of the property not exceed 18 inches at any point. And that will clear up anything.
Of grade, yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes, at grade. And that will clear up anything since I have now a third plan in my hand that you don't have. So the applicant is proposing to replace all existing doors and windows on the second story and construct a second story deck on the front of the residence. The replacement doors and windows are proposed to be installed within the same openings. However, some of them will be enlarged, like the two windows in the front will be turned into sliding glass doors. And then at the rear of the residence, the west side, there is a wall without a window that they are proposing sliding doors, and that's where that pad is. Let's see, the east elevation, that's where the two windows are that would be replaced by the sliding glass doors, and the deck that is proposed in the front is 190 square feet. So I feel like my presentation is kind of short compared to the large packet, the very long staff report that you have. But the project, however many details, is actually quite straightforward, and staff is recommending that the commission approve the project, the design review permit, because the improvements do not increase the density of the structure, and they complement the existing interior, exterior style design, and material is all matching. And again, I would suggest that, or recommend that you add a condition that at no point does the pad at the rear exceed 18 inches above grade. I also want to mention that the structure was built in 1987. And when I went out to look at the house, all of the doors and windows are original. And so it would probably improve the integrity and extend the life of the house if the windows and doors are replaced. And so with that, I'm available for questions, and I'm sure that the designer and applicant are in the waiting room.
Yes, questions for staff. I think Commissioner Bennett, you has a question.
Okay.
Yes, if you look at drawing A1.0 in the report, which is page 3 of 6 of attachment D, what you described was sliding glass doors on those dormers. And what is shown is a pair of hinged doors on each of the dormers.
Yes, you are absolutely right. And I misspoke. Thank
Okay, great. Because if it had been sliding glass doors, I would not have been as supportive. This will be less intrusive to the facade of the building. But I've got observations, but I'll make those at a later time. I think, we determined that the house is hard to see from the street, or it's not, you can't see it from the street.
It's very difficult, yes.
Can it be seen by any of its neighbors, by other residences?
The lot is quite deep, and the house, the main house, is set back quite far and cannot be seen from the street. And when if you were to go up to the house, it's surrounded by trees. I think the property to the rear was concerned about the rear deck might be able to see, but again, it's surrounded by trees. All the properties there seem to be.
And if the owner is planning on doing some landscaping, that may also have an effect on the visibility by any of the neighbors.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, the owner did go out and reach out to their neighbors about tonight's hearing, and a legal notice was also sent to every property owner within 300 feet.
I would just like to add that the house is actually, the property slopes up, so the house is pretty, I don't know what the height of it, but it's, because it's at the top of the slope, it's very high. And there are a number of houses actually very close, but there is a vacant lot then to the west of the property, I think. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't call it invisible to the neighboring houses.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Very good, then let's go.
I have another question.
Yes, sir, please.
In all of this, the original windows, the material of the window frames are the same, according to this, and those frames were aluminum. And were they these windows appear to have a paint finish on them, and I assume that the originals also had paint finishes on them, colored finishes. So there's no wooden. I mean, the doors are all aluminum doors, because I noticed there are some small pane windows in the before pictures that you can see there. I just want to make sure the fenestration of the doors and windows remains the same in terms of its look. Is that?
Sorry, some of what you were saying kind of faded away.
Oh, I'm sorry. I faded away. That wasn't. What I'm trying to do is figure out, in looking at the photographs, whether or not the windows and doors have the same, to the extent that they had mullions and small pane windows, as they appear to in some of the doors, that the new doors will have the same look.
I think we should ask the applicant. I did note it on attachment C, page 1. It says all windows throughout the residence to be replaced with Anderson E series aluminum clad windows. So
I just have a clarification question.
Yes, ma'am.
The elevation page is page 8A 2.0. So it's a little confusing because I think the front is actually the south. I mean, based on page.
Front of the house is actually the east.
East.
Yeah, when you look at the site plan, it's oriented so the back of the house should be the north side, the front should be the south side. So I'm looking at, I mean, so the east elevation is the front.
No, yes, correct, yes.
What side is the north?
The north is, if you're looking at the site plan.
I'm looking at A 2.0 because it's not, I don't know, it's on
the bottom left of A 2.0 is the north elevation. So that's a side.
That is the side.
See the bottom floor there with the window and a door that leads into the garage.
Is that the right side or the left side?
That is the right side if you're looking on the site plan.
Okay.
Or the north side.
Looking up the hill, that's on the right.
Okay.
Right, and so you can walk into the garage from that side.
Okay. The west is the rear. They say that. Okay. Oh, they do say side, but it can't. It doesn't match up with the site plan. I just have to say. So a little confusing, but I can see that the new decks are all on the front. Right.
Yeah. The new deck is on the downhill front side of the house.
Second story, yes.
Second story, yeah. Okay, any more questions for staff?
Well,
yes, Vice Chair Nolan.
Yeah, I can ask this question and it may be more appropriate for the applicant, but where the location on the rear, on the west side, where they're going to be not building the deck, but putting in a concrete pad or a slab instead, you had mentioned that they are going to be doing some additional landscaping and they're going to be bringing some fill soil in. Is that correct?
Well, I didn't mention fill soil because honestly, I'm not sure what the details are going to be with the landscaping. Okay. But they are going to, and maybe it's the same thing as what you're saying, and I just don't know the language, but they are going to be flattening the area where the slab is going to be. And if you notice on your plan, on page
Right.
A2 in the west elevation, the top right, or I mean,
Yes,
so the west elevation, the right
Correct.
side of that slab is not deeper, is not higher than 18 inches above grade. As you
Right.
travel to the left, the land goes down a little bit. So they would be
correct.
raising it a little
We'd be
bit.
doing fill most likely.
They would,
Yeah.
right, so they would make a flat area.
No. Whether the
Okay.
fill comes from outside or another part of the
Yeah.
yard, we don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Without asking.
I'll ask the applicant. I know that the plans are a reduction in size, most likely. These plans are probably reduced by half. So, I was just looking at the scale and just trying to see, well, what does that mean? And
Right.
I'll ask the applicant. It's fine.
Yeah, okay. Was there another question for staff?
Just one
Commissioner
question.
Bennett, yes.
Yes, it would appear from these drawings now, the 2.0, A 2.0 attachment D 4 of 6 that we've been just looking at. These pictures make it look like they are sliding doors. There's not but you can't really tell from this, but it sort of looks like it could be.
So what's important here is that this is, when you're looking at the west elevation, the rear of the house, those
Looking at the
doors-
west elevation of the rear of the house.
those doors are on the first story. So those are no longer under your purview because,
No, I'm talking about the ones upstairs on the second
oh,
story.
those are existing. Oh, that's true, but they're being replaced. You're absolutely
Everything's being replaced in the
right.
house.
They do appear to be sliding. Yes.
No. And so we're being shown two different things here. And
Yeah, I think Commissioner Bennett, to your point, I think we can certainly get clarification because I am seeing there's a slight difference in sliding doors that you're seeing to the rear than what you're seeing to the front.
yeah.
They're
Yeah,
just
you
not
can
showing
see-
knobs to show that they're
So you can see the wooden frame on the door
yeah.
in the front elevation, whereas in the rear you don't see a frame in the
Right.
same manner. And sliding glass doors are not as attractive to look at, frankly, as hinged doors. And I think there's enough room on that rear facing deck.
I would say let's get clarification from the
Yeah,
applicant.
let's get clarification.
Yeah.
The other part of it is exactly the rear deck. This shows the rear deck as stretching across between the two rear facing dormer. I'm sorry, I'm looking at front now. Yes, we're talking about two separate things. I take that
It's
back.
two separate balconies on the west elevation.
Right,
The proposed new deck does stretch between the two.
right. But there's no demo, I think. I think that there may already be those balconies there on the second floor facing.
Those are existing,
Yeah,
right?
I think
They're staying that way.
Right. Those are existing. The floor plan on page A1-0 shows that there are sliding doors that are going to those existing decks on the back of the house.
Okay. Maura, when you reference the grade, are you talking about the existing grade or finished grade? And do we really watch that difference when you're looking at the plans to put in slabs or move dirt around?
When it would be the proposed grade that they're of the not exceeding 18 inches. Is that what you're talking?
No, because it's a significant difference. If they can move dirt around and then change the existing grade, and then we measure from the new grade or the finished grade for the 18 inches. I mean, I don't know, it's something to think about. I don't know if the code's clear on that, but I think it's good to be clear about what grade we're talking about.
It would be finished and not what's proposed or what is existing.
And that's how we handle this. I mean, this is a consistent thing that we do.
I'm going to look up to my right.
Because, you know.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
We look at the existing, and it's important to look at the existing. I know I've had conversations with other landscape architects and designers in the past. You look at the existing, and once you look at the existing, when you start filling dirt, it's got to be consistent with the 18 inches. So
Okay.
I think that's the key point there. We've had proposals that have people have had interest in, and then it's become an issue because they're going beyond that 18 inches. So it's
okay.
It's a matter of the city inspectors as they watch the project to ensure that
No,
the
it needs to be
grade is in the right place.
It needs to be addressed in the plans. It's critical.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, thanks. That makes me feel better. So thank you.
Vice Chair Nolan?
Yeah, that was my question earlier as well. And I think I plan to ask the applicant, and like I said, the plans are reduced, and I see the scale on here, but I want to know what the grade differential is because they may end up having to add like a low retaining wall. I don't know what's going on with their footings that's supporting the house. So it could be a little more complicated, but I think
we're talking about the north end of that pad.
Yeah, we're talking about the west side of the house where they're not going to be putting the deck, but it's on the outside of the sliding doors. And they're going to be putting in a concrete pad or a slab patio, essentially. But it's hard I think we need to ask the applicant, and ideally we would have a little more information here so we could determine what was going on with the grade there. And once again, how much fill is going to have to go in and how does that affect the underside of the structure, etc. But I think once again, I'll ask the question.
And Maura did suggest that we add a condition of approval that the new concrete pad be no more than 18 inches above grade.
Right, because it's in the setback.
Grade.
Yeah, that part I understand, and I'm sure that the pad will probably be no more than quarter to a half an inch below the threshold of the sliding door, or the deck, or it'll line up with that. Or I'm not sure exactly because we don't have the information, but I think it's really more just getting accuracy on the existing grade. And
we could dive into that with the applicant, I would say.
Yeah, I think we can ask them. Correct.
Okay. Any more questions for staff? Well, then let's hear from.
What is the width of the balcony, the second story balcony? What is the width of that?
The proposed balcony?
Yes.
It is, it's 190 square feet, and it is.
It looks like it varies. It's shallower where the doors are and then fills back into the house in between those two.
Oh, are you talking about the depth? I thought you were talking about the width from side to side.
Oh, no, the depth, sorry.
Oh, the depth. The depth at the deepest, it's 7 feet 9 inches.
Okay, and it does, so I can't, as far as the outward plane probably lines up with the deck below it on the first floor. I can't tell from the side, one of these sides.
Now looking at A 1.0, it kind of looks like it does line up.
The second story deck, if you look on page A2 of attachment D, the second story deck does not line up with the first story deck.
Okay.
Really? Okay.
Well, it's very close.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm still trying to make sense of these side views.
If you look at the north side elevation, it looks like it's pretty close to line.
Okay. Okay. That's what I was trying to decide. Okay. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
again,
the north of the south elevation.
not the depth.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, thank you. I would say it actually looks like it lines up.
It does look
Again,
like it.
I was looking at, sorry.
It's okay.
stretching across the house.
Done with staff for the moment? Then Sherry, let's hear from the applicant.
We have Wade Ellison first, who's the designer for Cynthia Rowe. So Wade's on. I'll put both of them on actually. And so
Excellent.
they're both up. They're
Okay,
there.
Wade, you're unmuted. Cindy, oh, there you're unmuted. Okay. So go ahead, folks, whichever you choose.
Cindy there?
Yeah. Hi, Wade.
Yes.
Hi, I don't see you. Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Just fine. Yes.
Hope all you are well. I don't know. I think, first of all, I'd like to address, is it Commissioner Lodes? Is that, am I saying that correctly?
Lotus.
Lotus.
I'm sorry. Just to address your concern about the site plan regarding north.
I think I understand now, but go
Okay.
ahead.
I just wanted to make sure you were clear. So north is going to the right on all the plan views. So the site plan, north would be going to the right of the page, as well as all the floor plans. I tried to make that as clear as possible. So on the elevations, again, north, south, east, west, I tried to be very clear whether it was front, rear, or the side.
Yes, right, I see that. Yeah.
Okay. Sure, yeah, I just want to make sure everyone can read and understand the plans. And then regarding the doors, yes, they're gonna all match. Those are French doors on the second floor balcony. You can't see the knobs because I think the handrail's in the way.
Okay, but they're hinged doors, not sliding.
Correct, just like based on the floor plan. So those would be hinged, outswing French doors. The color to match the windows. And that's kind of typical throughout the whole project. Doors and windows, obviously, are all going to match.
And the neighbor who expressed a concern, is that the neighbor to the west?
That neighbor was to the rear, yeah, so it'd be
Okay.
westerly neighbor.
And that's uphill from this project.
I believe so. Regarding, terrain wise, yes, it'd be up slightly.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to tell us about the project, sir?
We feel it's pretty straightforward. The house has amazing views to the east, looking at the Topatopas and all the other surrounding mountains. So it's kind of a shame this wasn't kind of designed originally as part of the house back in the 80s, but so be it. Yeah, I think if I lived there, I'd definitely want to take advantage of those views.
We did have some questions about the revision at the rear with the concrete pad and not being more than 18 inches above finished grade. Could you tell us how you plan to accomplish that? Because the drawing does show, I think it's 5 steps to the north off that pad, which
Correct.
takes you more than 18 inches down.
Yeah, so essentially, to kind of modify and manipulate the finished grade, we'd be removing 2 of those steps to the north, kind of level that pad out, and that would be finished grade. So we're talking about 12 inches of dirt, bringing 12 inches of dirt up to that location.
Vice Chair Nolan, please.
Yes. Hi, Wade. Is the patio only going to be directly in front of the doors, or does it go the full extent as the deck originally was proposed?
No, it goes, I don't know what plan you're looking at.
I'm on page A2, the west rear elevation.
Are you looking at?
I think there's a new version of A2.0 floating around.
Yeah, mine, and my packet was incomplete, so I'm kind of turning my head looking on my other computer. and then I've got my packet in front of me, but I'm looking at A2, the west rear elevation of the upper right corner of the page. And
So,
yeah, because apparently I don't have the plan, the final plan that you have.
okay.
This is the assistant city attorney here, Brian Margolin. If you have the page, you're welcome to share it. If you hit the screen share
Oh,
function,
that would be great. Yeah.
to allow the commissioners to be able to see, that might help kind of address this issue.
Unfortunately, I'm not connected to my computer,
Okay.
so I can't share that. But Mara, do you have the updated that I shared with you?
Well, I have the updated, the latest one, but I think I'm not sure if I should be showing that one or the one that was in the packet. They both have a slab that is directly in front of the new doors and not spanning the entire width of the house.
Okay, well, maybe my packet was incomplete. And maybe I got the wrong set because mine shows the deck, not the concrete slab or patio.
Okay.
Okay, so
Commissioner Nolan, yeah, I mean, just to clarify that, so you're clear, that new concrete pad would be directly much smaller than the
In front
deck.
of the doors.
In front of the doors. Essentially, if you look at the west elevation,
Yep.
you'll see the upper deck, the upper cantilever deck on the second
Mhm.
floor.
Yeah, aligned with that.
Yeah, so it's essentially aligned with that,
Okay.
which is kind of nice because it provides kind of a covered area for that patio now.
All right. And then I guess the fill soil that you're going to need there will just kind of grade into the existing grade as it goes downhill, kind of taper down.
Correct. So we're manipulating about 12 inches of dirt and bringing it up. Currently, the backyard is unusable. And that's the whole point of this, to kind of re-landscape and have more of a usable rear yard.
Yeah, I know this is kind of a building question and maybe not out of our purview, but what are the posts that are holding the structure up on that slope?
Well, that would be for the deck, which is now removed.
Okay, that's only for the deck. Okay.
That's just, yeah. So those are all.
Because I mean, I could see the front of the house, but I couldn't see the rear. So I wasn't sure on that. Okay, that kind of helps solve my question.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if you look at a 2.0 sheet 4 of 4, it shows the house sitting on posts. And I don't think that's all.
You might be looking at an older version too with the deck prior to us removing it.
The attachment D, page 6, shows a
Six
full
of these.
rear deck and supports under it.
Yeah.
But there's a big X there that says this has been changed.
Okay.
Mine didn't say that, so that's what part of my issue was. Right now, I think I'm in the know.
Yeah,
Sorry about that, guys. We made some last minute changes to appease the neighbor and make sure everyone was happy.
Right, that page 6 on attachment D shows posts on 3 sides, the
You're
north,
looking at the
north, south, and west elevations.
yeah, you're looking at the colored
Yeah,
elevation.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that's been replaced by the pad.
Correct.
Yeah, and I also just opened up the notice that the Community Development Department sends out with our planning agenda, and that does have the correct drawings, I'm noticing. So
Okay.
I'm turning my head to look at that on another screen. Okay.
Okay, we also have the owner with us, Ms. Rowe. Something
Hello.
you'd like to say?
Yeah, thank you, Wade, for clarifying. Thank you, everybody, for taking time to look at this. The only other thing I would say, which I told my back neighbor, it's not like a deck to kind of hang out and have parties. It's really to beautify the property and to beautify from the inside. So the whole idea was kind of to open up downstairs, and then you kind of look back and you look at French doors that go out into like a beautiful landscape. So it's really meant to beautify and obviously improve the whole environment, to sync it up with Ojai standards. And so that's the whole idea. It's not having wild parties in the back. It's a it's a kind of a small space. So we just want to make it more beautiful. And then, as Wade already said, the upper balconies out front is basically anyone who's seen my house goes, why don't you have balconies looking out at the Topa Topas and Sulphur Mountain? Because that's your view. So I thought that was a great idea. So that's really what we're trying to do with the property.
And what goes along with a balcony is you'll have a shadow in your living
Yes.
room, and you've obviously taken that into consideration.
Yeah, people also said that to make sure that there's still plenty of light. So yeah, so we're opening everything up, and we'll have some new windows and such. So yeah.
Were you opening another revised plan there, someone?
Yeah, Mara,
I
are
think
you
Mara.
sharing your screen? But I'm not seeing. Can you stop sharing your screen there, Mara?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
so-
was trying to, but I didn't realize you were seeing everything I was doing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll get out of this right now.
We're happy to see what you're doing if you pull up a plan.
Do you want to see the plan? Can you see my screen?
If you have it there, then we might as well take a look at it. Sure, open it up.
Are you looking at my screen right now?
We're
Yes.
looking at a OneDrive or file explorer. What do you call it?
Oh, so you're not looking at the plans?
No,
No,
it's a
it's not
listing.
open.
It's a listing of the documents.
Okay, well, sorry, I was technologically arrested in the 80s, and I
I
asked
think you
for,
just need to click
Can
the,
you double click on that plans revised 3/15/22? Would that open it? Oh, okay. Guess not.
sorry, I'm not able to share it.
All right.
I don't know if Lucas, you can pull it up. It's in the address file.
All right. Any commissioners have any questions for the applicant or the owner? All right. Then Sherry, let's move on to the
We have Michelle Wells in the waiting room now. Michelle, did you want to speak?
someone wants to speak in public comment on this item.
Have Michelle Wells.
Please go ahead, Ms. Wells. I see
Okay.
your raised hand.
Thanks, Sherry, and thanks, Mr. Quillisi. I just, and I've traded notes with Lucas and Sherry. I kind of got out of the loop when some of the SPL overlay conversations, I know were kind of postponed, just given the short time frame at the end of last year with the October submission, but just was wondering if those would be addressed kind of holistically, or if anyone kind of interested in the conversation should just work directly with, the team at the kind of development team, Lucas and Sherry and everyone, whether there's kind of a formal process for that, or if any discussion should come individually.
Can I respond to that just real quickly?
This-
Michelle, we're talking about a specific item on the agenda, which is 1001 North Montgomery Street. Do you have a question or a comment regarding that specific project?
I do not. I apologize. I misunderstood the ask.
Yeah, I thought you said SPL, and that's not
Yeah, otherwise,
not part of the agenda tonight.
Yeah, Michelle, I can talk to you offline regarding SPLs and that process and how that works from the community development standpoint.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lucas.
Thank you, ma'am. Sherry, did we have someone else? You said we had 2 people in the waiting room.
No, we have no more. It was meaning Wade and Cindy.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's
Well,
it.
then we will close this portion of the public hearing and come back to deliberations on the commission itself. Any overall thoughts, Vice Chair Nolan?
I I see no issues. Oh, actually, Lucas has his hand up, so let's.
Yes, I see
I'd like
your
to raise
hand
my-
up, Lucas.
To Vice Chair Nolan's point, I do have the plans up. If
Oh, that'd be
you want me to
good.
share screen, because unfortunately, yeah, you're seeing them online, but I want to make sure that the
They're
public.
the same plan, exactly.
Yeah, if you could share that screen, that would be great.
Yeah. It's good for us to all be on the same page.
Can you see what I've got here? Can you see
Yeah.
it?
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
there's your revised finished grade, yes.
Yeah, okay, now I get it, yeah.
Yeah, so here's all four of the elevations we were talking about just a moment ago.
Mhm.
Yes,
This
and
was
as Commissioner Bennett pointed out, we're not seeing the mullions on the French doors, but I presume they're there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think actually Wade, the designer, was identifying that the hinges might actually be here, but
The knobs were
the
behind
knobs,
the
right.
rail.
The knobs will be there, yeah. Yeah.
We could actually require as a condition that they call them out to ensure that it's accurate.
I think that's a good idea, yeah.
Okay. So we have two conditions to add, one about the doors and one about the finished grade related to the pad.
Let me get a schedule.
Okay,
I mean,
Right.
to the question that we were talking about, they have gone and filled in the soil. There's, in that top one, we can't see. We can slide that
can you
down.
slide that down a little bit, Lucas? Yeah,
This
there
way?
you go.
So what they've done is the pitch of the soil begins sort of where that set of little steps are.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, that's flat. And in the previous drawing, they were at an angle, and those three windows were more than 18 inches, certainly on the left side where the soil goes
There
off.
were 5 steps on the left, now there's 3, it looks
Yeah,
like.
I've got I think it's a fairly inexact science here. I don't think we know what that actually looks like, because as I'm looking at it, it's sort of a straight line on the original drawing. And so, you know, we really don't know what the intent is there, although this is, to me, an attractive solution. Frankly, as opposed to the one which was at required 5 steps on the left-hand side.
Yeah, I think this'll, I think the intent there is clear to conform to the 18-inch requirement.
Yeah, but they're doing it by finishing the base soil. And we just a few minutes ago talked about measuring the 18 inches from the existing line.
Correct.
And I think we need to sort that out, because if we were to do that from the existing line, 18 inches, well,
I think if we do an additional condition and specify 18 inches above finished grade.
Yeah, existing finished grade.
Well, it's not the existing finished grade. They're actually going to modify the grade there on the west side of the house toward the north end.
I know, but am I misunderstanding that the 18 inches is from the grade that's there presently, and then they're going to bring some fill in, approximately a foot of fill?
Correct.
But we're saying that you can't exceed 18 inches above the existing
inches is
grade as it
18
is
inches.
now.
Right, you can't.
Grade.
Right. So yeah,
Yeah.
we've got to be careful with that in terms of working with them on that.
Right,
We'll be asking for what the existing grade is and what their proposed grade
right.
is, and ensuring that 18 inches remains at 18 inches.
Right.
It's a similar conversation that I have with individuals when we're looking at hillsides and we talk about the 15% rule. A lot of times I have engineers that come in and they say, yeah, we're less than 15%. My first question is that before or after you've modified the grade?
Right.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's the same concept here.
Right.
And
And
we're
because we don't,
definitely dealing with the hillside here. Yep.
Yep.
we don't have any contours shown on here or spot elevation. So we do have a scale, but you know, right, I don't have the exact correct plans in front of me to scale, so it's hard to,
Right.
we just need to make sure the
first
correct
large
information
print.
is there and conditioned.
The first large drawing T0.1 has the topographic lines on it.
That's the first sheet, Lucas, if you want to slide that up.
Oh, is
Right.
that- slide it up.
Yeah, you could see that. It's like,
All the way up to the first.
it's about 4.5, 4 or 5 feet, maybe 4.5.
The site plan.
Oh, further.
Farther,
Yeah.
Lucas, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks like all said and done about 4.5 feet from
There you
the
go.
southwest
That's the one.
corner. Yeah. Give or take, I might be off a little bit.
Yeah, that's gonna take a fair amount of
Yeah.
grading and fill.
So do we have limits on square footage or a cubic feet of grading? Do we have any thresholds on what people
50.
can do with moving around dirt?
50 cubic feet typically.
50?
Is it 50? I don't know that it's necessarily specified in the code. That might be a building, more of a building
That's a building. Yeah.
standard.
Yeah, it is building.
Well,
I think if we put a condition that they meet the requirements of the code and make
Yeah.
sure that the top of the pad is no more than 18 inches above the finished grade, the proposed grade.
Existing grade.
Mm-hmm.
Well, existing, but see, they're going to modify the existing grade.
substantially.
Right. And then all said and done, the soil that they bring in and the top of the concrete pad can exceed 18 inches. I
Right.
mean, basically they're going to go 1/4 to 1/2 an inch below the threshold and then go down, but ultimately it can't be 18 inches above that existing grade.
It does get a
Soil
little
and concrete
you're doing
combo.
that.
I worry about the inexactness here that we don't, we're just
I do
not,
too. Yeah.
a lot of interesting things can happen if we're not more definitive.
Well, you know, if we felt like we really do need more information prior to voting on it and having a condition, I guess we could continue the item and ask for the accurate information. Unless we feel a condition is enough and the planning and the building department's going to take care of it. And I think those are our two choices.
My feeling is the condition is enough if the condition is enforced. You know, the city is supposed to be inspecting the construction as it goes.
Correct.
And if that is done with sufficient timeliness and precision, we ought to get the result that we're looking for. Yes, Lucas.
I see that there is a hand raised, and it is Randy who has a question.
Randy.
Is it in relationship to what we're talking about here, Randy?
Yes, it is. I snuck in, you guys. I had one question on the code. 3 steps does not require a handrail, 5 does. Is that why they've gone to 3? You might ask the applicant, because I'm observing 2 things here. One, by raising the elevation, they're also creating a steeper slope in the backyard. That's one thing that someone hasn't brought up. The other thing is, if you're talking a handrail with 5 steps, that might be the better use of that space for the client versus importing soil and bringing it up. I don't know what the code is on that. Is our code the same as the county, 3 steps or 30 inches, something like that, you know, on these that require railing?
Yeah, it's 30. I believe it's 30 inches in terms of the handrail.
Yeah.
The 18 inches is the more stricter standard that we apply in terms of elevation change. So this pad is an interesting concept. What might actually make sense because of the late hour change that was made before these were released is that not be addressed at this point, but we move forward with the decision on the second story aspect. If the attorney can weigh in on that, because I agree. I'm just looking at that right now, and we haven't vetted any of that out. It was just something that was added. And I think one of the concerns that could come from this is it may actually dive into a variance requirement or a minor variance requirement. So to address it.
In that case, then well, the whole thing could be continued, but it might be best to solicit input from the applicant, whether they would like this to be kind of split into kind of two separate issues.
Yep.
Commissioner Bennett?
Commissioner Trent is first.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
Oh, it's all right. I just had a quick question. What is back there now if there is no concrete pad?
There's no sliding glass doors or other doors at the moment. I think it's windows.
So it's just windows back there?
Yeah.
There's sloping backyard, and there are no windows actually that
No doors on the back side.
There are no doors or windows at that location. There's a door with steps further to the left on your plan. I think that would be east, or not east, south.
South, yeah. And to Randy's point, it will be building up that hillside, right?
Yeah.
So would they also build up the hillside on the south side of the property? Or is that going to be?
Doesn't appear to go in the plans.
Yeah, in order to reduce the amount of steps in the front and to put the pad in the back, they're probably gonna, well, I'm guessing, but you know, the fill would actually go along the south side there.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yeah, my question is, do you need a landing pad at the bottom of the steps more than just a step?
Is there a requirement as a building code requirement?
Yeah.
I don't have that answer. I mean, I can get it for you.
Well, I look at it and my instinct is that when you're coming down those steps, you have to land on something that is larger than the size of a step.
You gotta have to land it. Yeah, you gotta have something.
Yeah.
I
guess I'm looking at something. I like the idea that Lucas had, which was maybe what we do is we focus on the second floor and say, okay, you know, so they can get going, and I know they've got a project that's been approved on the second floor, but we need to figure out this little piece of business down here. I hate to tie people up.
Yeah, is that legal, Epi, to approve a part of the project and continue part of the project?
I believe it would be.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes, please, Maura.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind the commission that, so if this first story deck turns out to be groundwork that doesn't need a variance because it's appropriate or it's below 18 inches and it's been determined that it's all to code, building code and municipal code, then it won't return to the planning commission because it won't be under the planning commission's purview. Once they removed that variance, this was really no longer under your purview. We just wanted to show you what it was that they did when they removed the deck that required a variance.
So if we put a condition on this that the pad not be more than 18 inches above the finished grade, then we're saying take this out of our purview.
Well, since the discussion that's happened here this evening leaves a question as to whether or not filling it will be proposed finished grade versus existing grade, that question still is here, and I think we need to talk to the building department. Lucas, if I'm going on a tangent or talking out of turn, go ahead and interrupt me, but I just think that.
But can Vice Chair Nolan speak?
Yes, please, Kathy.
So if let's just, this is a scenario because we don't know what it is, we don't have it in front of us. But if they're, bringing all the soil, they're changing the grade, and it's more than 500 square feet, or they have to turn in a landscape plan? Right now they don't, but does that trigger it? Because when I was talking about a pad at the bottom of the steps, Now we're into landscape. If it was an ADA situation, we would have to comply and have a landing, but not necessarily could have mulch at the base of their landing if they wanted to. So are we kind of getting into a gray area here? And so maybe, as Commissioner Bennett said, maybe we approve the second story, but they come back to planning staff with what they're going to do as far as the grading goes, and then you can determine if it's needs to come back to us, or if it's a landscape more than 500 square feet, or maybe it isn't. I mean, it sounds like there's some potential questions that we aren't able to answer tonight.
I agree. And I believe it has a lot to do with the late hour of the switch, and that's the fact that the community was trying to work out alternatives, I would say, to a certain degree, regarding that back portion.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't think we need an additional condition on the doors because they've now been revealed as hinged French doors. Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
But
how about a motion then to approve the DRP, but withhold approval of the details of the pad and the finish grade for further staff review? Vice Chair Nolan.
Because we were just talking about the doors and the windows, for clarity's sake, of course, my plans are not the accurate ones, but I think on A3, we have the door type and window types in there. There is a mix of doors. So maybe I just want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. So in other words, they do have a sliding glass door unit. They do have a French door unit.
Does look like that, doesn't it? Yeah.
Right. And a 5-panel accordion door kit. So it looks like there's a combination, and I'm only bringing that up because Commissioner Bennett, you were, asking about the doors, and we were kind of agreeing, but just for clarity's sake, it looks like there's a hybrid or, a mix.
The owner characterized that 3-panel door as being French doors, although it looks like sliding.
Well, I guess that's the question. If I look on the sheet A 3.0, and I look at the door types and the window types, it does show, specifically for the doors, that there are 3 different doors. And of course, they're showing an interior door, which isn't under our purview, but
the type A, which is the 3-panel door, is characterized as being a 3-panel accordion door. So
correct.
It would slide on a track as opposed to
correct
running parallel to the
right. But I'm just making note that there are 3 types of doors, and they're not all French doors.
They're not all hinged French doors.
Based on our earlier discussion. I was a little confused too, and and then I went back and looked at that. So
also, if I can, the door that they're showing on the far right on A 3.0, the regular door, which has I'm guessing that has windows in it. Oh, that's an interior.
It's interior, so I think it's just paneled.
It's really the 3 other doors that we need to look at.
Yeah, there is, for instance, if you go back to A 2.0, the front door has wood panels at the bottom, and it's
correct.
It's a 9. The small pane window is a 9 unit, whereas the existing is windows all the way down. This is a far preferable design, I think, than what the current is. So.
Right. So I guess where I'm a little confused is on the back side. We were told the upper story, this would be on the west or rear elevation. The upper story doors are French doors, and it looks like the bottom door where the new potential concrete slab is going to go are the accordion doors. Then
3-panel door, right?
Yeah. And then where are these sliding doors? Or have they been eliminated?
The sliding doors, that's a good question.
Those could be on the west side. It looks to me like The French doors, the hinge doors are on the east side, the front.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can I make a suggestion?
yeah, I think we're guessing here.
Could we bring in the designer?
Sure.
He's the one that's sat with this project, and
Yeah,
so-
ideally we should have everything labeled so we're all, you know, discussing and voting on the same thing.
Right.
And I do apologize once again because my packet had the old plan, so that's probably why I'm asking more questions.
That's okay.
Talk to us some more, Mr. Ellison.
Yeah.
Sure, and thank you, Lucas. So just to clarify, the only French doors on this project, if you look at, I don't know if it's going to help to look at the floor plan, sheet A1.0, the only French doors proposed on this project are at the dormers, the second floor dormers.
On the east side.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Shows them swinging out.
Okay, see,
yes.
that's, okay.
Yeah, and I tried to be clear with the door and window schedule.
Okay,
indicating
that's,
those. Everything else are sliders, but again, the frame colors are all going to match.
yeah.
And then in regards to the single slider, I think you were asking about, that's in the family room next to the fireplace on the north end. There's just a single set of sliders there.
This is the first floor plan we're talking about on A1.0.
Oh, yeah, I see it, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I see what that accordion is. Okay, the three doors fold up alongside each other at one edge of the opening.
Correct. And then upstairs, the two decks that are cantilevered off the little bedrooms towards the backyard.
Those are also sliders?
Those are existing sliders, but they're going to be replaced just with some more current, more up-to-date sliders. So the same openings, but just new doors. So hopefully that clarifies the whole French door versus slider.
So the sliders will only be, the French doors will be visible from the front of the house.
Not the
The
back.
others will be from the side or the rear then, yeah, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So what's the pleasure of the commission here? Shall we
Ready for a vote.
move part of it down the road and leave staff to investigate the pad and the finished grade?
Yeah.
Yep. Like that.
Someone want to make a motion to that effect? If not, I will. Well, I'll take a shot then. I move that we approve design review permit DRP 21-017 to the extent of replacing doors and windows on the second floor and adding a new deck on the east side of the building on the second floor, and that we ask staff and the applicant to collaborate on the proposed new concrete pad on the west side such that it conforms to the 18 inches above grade standard of the city. Does that sound like a legal motion, Epi?
Yeah, that is, I concur that that's a legal motion.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
very good. Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am. Of course, that's what we're discussing the motion now. Yeah.
So the design review part of this, I'm pretty fine with, but I do have a concern about these second story decks. I
On the
feel
front
that
side.
there's potential for invasion of privacy with neighbors. It's hard to really judge what that is now or into the future. And so I'm concerned about it. I know there was another house we approved it's either a roof, I think it was a roof deck over a garage, and I have the same concerns about
Yes, on South Signal.
Yes, and so this is a big lot, and you know, but there are other structures, other residential structures that are close by. So I just wanted to express that concern and get it out there. I think that
Sure.
if this does get approved, I think it's something we should revisit in terms of whether this is really okay, whether roof decks and second story balconies are really okay. So that's
As a general policy for future projects.
right.
Okay. Commissioner Bennett.
Yes, I anticipate I'll vote in favor of this, but I am not in favor of balconies on the front of houses. I wouldn't want to look at one. But it was only before Councilman Haney came on board and we were discussing this in a more general sense that I asked the question. I was the only person who's not seen this house. It was very difficult to see from the front. And as a result, there isn't a neighbor across the street who has to look at this because of the way the ground slopes and because of
immediately downhill from the house is the ADU. And then there's a lot of trees before you get to the next house to the east.
Yeah, so
right there, but there's a house, there's a structure right next door. There's the guest house, and then there's a house across the street down the hill. You know, again, my concern is that we can make an evaluation based on the current situation, but that may not be necessarily what exists in the future. Anyway, it's just something I feel concerned about. I feel that there's really potential for unnecessary invasion of privacy for neighbors with this kind of, and once we start approving these things, you know, one person does it, the next person wants to do it. And so
sure.
That's all. I'm just making a comment.
It's a good
All right.
consideration. Yeah.
Absolutely. Any more discussion of the motion? Then Sherry, would you call the roll, please?
Chair Quilisi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nolan,
Yes.
Commissioner Lottis,
No.
Commissioner Trent,
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett.
no. I was going to say yes, and then I saw Commissioner Lottis stick to her guns. So.
Oh, is that all it takes?
No, but also, I mean, it won. It passed.
No, yes. It was a yes. Yes, exactly.
And I thank you both for expressing your concerns and for voting your concerns. I failed to do that once a few years ago, and I have regretted it ever since. I withdrew a motion and I felt like I shouldn't have. All right, well, then Ms. Rowe and Mr. Ellison, you have a partial approval of the project, and you now should get back together with the planning staff to make sure that we understand the conditions around the proposed new pad and proposed new finished grade, and that will determine whether that question comes back before the planning commission or not, correct?
Correct.
I think that's it. Okay. Well, let's move on then to item 3, the work plan for the planning commission.
Yes, thank you, Chair Quilisi. This is an item that I've added. Well, I haven't added to the agenda, but it's an item that just is a reoccurring item on the agenda, so that we're constantly aware of this work program that we've got, the priorities for the Planning Commission for this year. And I've already gone over them at the last meeting, but wanted to let you know that I'll be giving you a little bit of an update regarding the general plan update and where we're at, and kind of talking about that in a item coming up in a few minutes. So anyway, if any of the commissioners have any questions on the work program and the kind of the priorities of the Planning Commission, we could certainly just discuss that. That's the whole point of putting this on the agenda.
Well, we certainly have have had a constant flow of specific address cases. But I see a number of things there that we're going to eventually have to get back to these more general questions, like formula businesses or fire suppression, tree ordinance.
Right.
Do you have a sense, knowing what's in the pipeline with specific address cases, as to when we might see some of this stuff?
I think you may be seeing formula business in the near future. We're working on cannabis right now as well, so I think that one is definitely in the near future as well. And the general plan update, I'll be giving an update here in a minute on that in terms of talking through the workflow plan and timing and what items I think this commission as well as the community council can expect in the near term.
Okay. Any other questions for staff on this work plan?
Are there any, I'm sorry, are there any of these issues which are likely to consume multiple meetings?
I think each of these items would consume multiple meetings. These are all heavy items, and I think they all deserve more than one meeting to vet out. Have staff go back and look at a couple other pieces to the puzzle, and then come back. Title 10, obviously, that update is ongoing. It's been paused at the moment, but it is definitely ongoing.
And it's definitely more than that one thing about VMU zoning. So
yeah, that's one piece, obviously, to what we've been looking at.
Okay, well, let's take a look at item 4, future agenda items.
So on here, I've got Hotel Roblar scheduled for April 6th. I've been working on that one. I think you can expect that one to be on for the 6th. Did I? Okay, want to make sure that we're still in order here.
That's
and
likely a
then
full
I
meeting.
have on here the formula business. I'd put a question mark by that because I know there's a couple meetings that I'm going to have before we get this on the agenda. So just know that I've been doing some research from other cities' standpoint and gathering that information. And it's just a matter of me piecing all that together before it comes to this body. April 20th is a possibility, though. And then I don't have any other items on the agenda, but I can tell you I'm looking at my pending list, and there's several items that are going to be coming to this commission in the near term, and not in the long term. So just be aware that there's some heavy items that are going to be coming either from concept standpoint or a design review or use standpoint. So just be aware of that.
Do you think cannabis might sneak back into April 20th?
Maybe, or the first meeting in May if formula doesn't make it.
Okay.
Now there could also be a current project that makes it on April 20th as well. We have several projects that are nearly ready to move forward.
Yeah, it's those specific address current projects that I think we want to be most careful about, so that we don't hold up designers and builders and
yeah, those actually have
out the payments on construction loans.
Right. We've got specific timelines that we've got to make sure that we're staying within for the current projects. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Then we're down to specific commissioners' comments. Anyone have items of general interest to the commission you'd like to bring up at this point? How about from our planning director?
Wait, Chair Policy, did we skip over director report, general plan update?
Oh, sure, go ahead. I thought that was going to be part of the comments that you had after the commissioners' reports.
I can do that.
John I see John Trent has raised his hand. John?
Yeah, I just had, and this is more philosophical, I guess, but just questions on SB9 and how we're addressing that as a planning commission. Like, for example, will we see any of those if somebody submits an application related to SB9?
No,
No.
no. SB9 is handled as a ministerial action.
Okay.
So as long as they're falling within the parameters that have been identified through state law, then no.
Got it.
So we're talking a subdivision that meets all those standards.
Right. And then second question on that.
John, just to follow up on that, so could we just have a short 5-minute kind of education about SB9 on one of our meetings where we're not overloaded? Just to have, just to bring the commission up to speed.
If I have two commissioners that want to add it, I could certainly run through that. It's interesting. We've got, I was expecting to hear from a lot more of the community that were interested in it. I think we've had less than a handful of individuals that have reached out and walked through and asked very specific and kind of testing the limits of what SB9 looks like. So it's been kind of an interesting first few months since that law became effective January 1st.
It could be useful if you could give us 5 minutes on what does a project have to do to stay ministerial under SB9.
I have questions about what are the requirements in terms of dividing the lot and providing access, what kinds of requirements can be imposed, such as parking. So it would just be nice to have, I realize we may not have answers to all the questions that we might have at this point, but
I'll bet you can cover the majority of the topics in 5 minutes though.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just one thing to add on that. I know that one of the conditions where lots will not qualify is in a high fire severity zone. And do we know what map is being used for that determination?
Arguably, the whole city falls into that category.
Depending on the map.
Yeah.
So do they use CAL FIRE? Do they use something else? I don't know. So that would be nice to have that clarity.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments from commissioners? If not, I have one, a mea culpa. At our last meeting, I cut off one of our speakers. Did not allow a second round of discussion, and I'm sorry for that. What I should have done and what I thought I was doing was letting two of the speakers, and this was on the cannabis thing, I think it was. I thought they were answering specific questions from commissioners because we had had the public hearing and we had closed it. And I will, at least during the time that I'm running the meeting in the future, I will try to have a public hearing where everyone has the opportunity to speak. And then when we close the public hearing, not have anyone speak a second time unless they're answering a specific question from a commissioner. I made that mistake once, or I've seen it made at least in the past. And if you open up the public hearing again, it quickly gets out of control, or can. So I will try to do better, and I apologize to Mr. Miley for cutting him off. Other than that, do we have any more? Yes, Mr. Bennett.
Do we have a target on when we're going to try and be back in council chambers for our meetings?
It's a question for me, isn't it?
Yes.
But is the council back in council chambers?
I think that should be announced here in the very near future is probably the way I can describe that. I don't have the exact dates at this point.
We're not having the mask indoors at restaurants anymore.
That'll all be addressed.
Okay.
In the fullness of time, right?
And yes,
John,
Well,
you
I
had a
say
question?
I look forward to meeting with all of you physically.
That's right. we
Yes.
were sharing that.
Having
Yeah.
said that, it was awfully convenient to add 20 minutes to my prep time because I was able to continue to read right up until the time of the meeting, and so.
We did all meet physically once when we
Yeah.
had the school board thing,
That's cool. Man.
not since. John Trent, you had a question?
Yeah, I
Or comment?
apologize. Just one more thing I was thinking about with the SB9 is as we're talking about educating us on it, etc. Is it possible to, Lucas, to do a little bit of research on what other cities might be doing? For example, I know Goleta's got some stuff that they're trying to do. I know Montecito's doing some stuff. I think County of Santa Barbara maybe. So I'm just curious if there's anything that other cities are doing around SB9 that we might need to be aware of.
yeah, it's interesting. So we have a directors meeting with other directors within the county, within Ventura County. So it's like Camarillo, Oxnard, Ventura, right? All those cities. And we meet once a month, and we've added SB9 just to get an update from each of those communities in terms of what applications are coming in, how are we addressing them. So that's actually a discussion set for tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to
Oh, great.
Yeah, that'd be good. Awesome.
I may have more information that I can add to a future report. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Now, comments from the planning director?
yes, thank you. Sorry, I kept trying to figure out where it fits in, and I just had to wait my turn. Thank you. I wanted to give a little bit of an update in terms of the general plan update because I kind of had this feeling that it's been kind of stuck in the mud in terms of where we're at. And I don't think I've been giving the community or this commission, and to a certain degree, even council, kind of the important information of that there is work being done behind the scenes, and that work will be shown in the very near term. From a historical standpoint, this project, general plan, has seen a ton of different hoops and issues and roadblocks. COVID is only one of them. Being required to be social distance and not being able to meet in person has put a strain on how this process is meant to work. And it's meant to be a physical process where you're present, right? And you're meeting with the public face to face, and virtually just doesn't feel like face to face, right? Even the workshop that we did back in March of 2021 was virtual. And certainly we had a lot of people that were eager, got a lot of really good feedback. But it just didn't feel like there was a physical presence, right? And I can tell you that we're working towards, the consultant's already working behind the scenes to address and put together what is the next steps. So from a next step standpoint, we're looking at the consultant working on alternatives, and they'll be putting those together, and we'll be looking at having a review of that. And that will be through a workshop. That's our next kind of big piece. And we're leaning into that right now as a part of kind of setting the table for what those alternatives would look like. And those alternatives are coming really from everything that we've seen up to this point: the online surveys, the workshop, like I mentioned, the community envisioning workshop, the visioning guiding principles, the input from the stakeholders. Those are like the youth, the business owners, elected appointed officials, stakeholders within the community. All that information has led us to these alternatives that we're going to be taking a look at. And those are really focused on land use and transportation. So really this next workshop is going to be focused on those two alternatives. And then after that, the consultant will reconvene, put together some information, and then that'll be when City Council and Planning Commission will have a joint study session. and they'll be looking at the preferred alternative. And then once we have that piece, that'll set the table for the general plan preparation, really in tandem with the environmental impact report preparation. So those two will go hand in hand. And that's really where the rubber hits the road. All that hard work that we've done up to this point, while it's been, I think in the beginning, I had talked to this commission, Commissioner Ben, I don't think you were on the commission, and Trent, I don't think you're on the commission. I said, we have this 18-month process we're going to go through. We're going to get this thing done. And then I think it was like a week later, COVID hit, and 18 months has turned into basically 2.5 years. But the reality is that even though it's taken longer, it's given the staff as well as the consultant an opportunity to kind of look at the process and working through the challenges that existed. You know, not being able to meet physically, it's a challenge, right? A document like this, that's going to be a living, breathing document for the next 20, 25 years. You want input. You want people looking you in the eye, identifying what their vision is for this community, right? I mean, I'm talking youth all the way up to, the senior plus. So it's a community product. And why not have that community face-to-face? So this workshop, we're looking for that to be face-to-face. I think that's the important piece moving forward. So I wanted to update this commission, anybody that's listening online as well, that the general plan update is certainly still moving ahead, and we're looking forward to the next steps. And I wanted to update this commission at this point. So
and the next workshop is going to be an in-person workshop versus virtual.
Yes.
Okay.
I think
Bennett,
we're looking. Here's the one thing that I would say about that will probably, because of the technology that we have today, we'll probably be streaming it live as well. So for those individuals that can't be there, but those that want to be there in person will absolutely have that opportunity.
Okay, so a hybrid kind of meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bennett, you had another question or comment?
Yeah, it's like a chapter in the general plan, and it floats out there. It doesn't really have a home, but I think its home is the general plan, and that is the parking study. As you looked at your list of work, there was a parking study on that, and I think that there's so much, both in terms of land use. You know, tell me how what your parking strategy is, and I'll tell you what the land use ought to be, or vice versa. You know, I think we've got to figure out how we integrate parking in that. And we've talked about hiring a parking consultant to help us go through and deal from a process standpoint with all of the competing uses for parking. And as we know, there's a constituency who doesn't believe we should have any more parking because parking begets cars. And so, you know, I think we need to put that in there, and I don't know where to put it in. But
I would agree with you. We need more discussion in the general area, and it's of particular concern to me that we look at those pieces of the code that deal with parking, because right now, particularly with retail businesses or restaurants in particular, some kinds of seating require parking, and some sort of seating do not require parking. And that seems very strange to me. And it may be an area that we can take forward with some good ideas to the city council.
Yeah, and I just want to preface it with, I'm loving the conversation. It sounds like it's a municipal code discussion. Policy within the general plan would help to kind of guide the principles of the parking that you're talking about specifically. It's not going to go into the nuts and bolts. That's reserved for the zoning code. That's reserved for the municipal code. But yeah, we've had that discussion on several items already. So absolutely, point taken.
Okay. Any more go backs? Then let's hear from our city council liaison, who I understand from the last meeting is about to turn into a pumpkin.
Is that what I am? I'm sorry, guys. First of all, I'm sorry for being late. To be honest with you, we got our new agenda package for the next 3 months, and I read it and I went, oh, I'm off planning, and I believe Ryan Platts is your next liaison. So I told my wife, let's watch Belfast tonight and have dinner. So sorry about that. Okay, I didn't watch Belfast. Obviously, I watched you guys. I was just trying to get the exact wording of our policy regarding SB 9, which we passed a couple months ago. And what I believe what was voted on is that I think it was a 3-2 vote that we just follow the state guidelines regarding SB 9. Okay, so that was the first thing. We didn't do anything special. What we're doing is, if we felt that if we had to enact a change or write new policy or a new ordinance, that we could do that rather quickly to respond to what Director Siebert was talking about. And that is, if we start getting a number of these lot adjustments regarding SB 9, that it would come back to council and that we would make some decision, obviously have another discussion on it. That's the first thing. The second thing I looked up was SB 9 must follow the established rules regarding Chapter 7A of the Building Code, and therefore they are allowed in high fire zones. So that I did research that real quick. So that's that was part of our discussion too. We thought that if we had put in place a high fire zone for the city of Ojai, that would have exempted us from any SB 9s, and the reality is it didn't. So you can write policy around it. But at that, like I said, at that meeting, council decided to wait and see. Let's see if it's going to impact us. As you guys see, we have a lot of refurbishment contracting in this town. We don't have a lot of new development. Right. So, in fact, some of your biggest projects are refurbishments. They're not brand new. So, so that's where we are there. Again, it's interesting watching the deliberation on issues. From a first glance, they look easy and should be solvable and moving on. And then the reality is, when you guys get into the nuts and bolts of it, you start seeing that why you have a planning commission is that there's a lot to be reviewed. So I respect how you guys, again, conduct yourselves and how you do it. And the decision that you made tonight seemed to be sound, moving the applicant forward, yet reserving the right to review as necessary other aspects of the project. So I think it's good. It was logical and it was professional. Good job. Aside from that, this is my last meeting. Thank you for tolerating me for 3 months.
You're always welcome.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, Steve. I do watch and I do follow up on the real intense issues, to be honest with you, but I'm not going to come to meetings and speak normally, because I'm always under the impression that something may elude you and have to come to council for a decision. And at that time is when you want to research the record and actually formulate your thinking on it. So rather than being tainted, I'd rather be open to hear my fellow council members as we deliberate something, just as you all are to one another. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you all. And there being no obvious other business before the commission at 7:39 by my clock, at least, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Randy. Thank you, guys.
Good job, guys.